tonight on the Night Team. The Trump administration has frozen federal funding, which has left some students at Kentucky State University in limbo.
And the impact goes directly to the students.
How a former president of the HBCU is seeing the impacts. Plus, a water main break in South Louisville left cars underwater. Crews spent hours on the scene, when residents and businesses can expect their service to be restored. And later, garbage left littering Waterfront Park after the Ohio River floodwaters receded. The city is now asking you to help restore the park ahead of spring. Right now on the WHAS11 Night Team. Some students at Kentucky State University are now left in a potentially difficult situation after their scholarship funding was frozen by the Trump administration. Hello everyone, I'm Alex Dieterer. USDA's 1890 Scholars Program has been frozen as part of the administration's recent budget cuts. WHAS 11 Night Team's Clarice Shaley and photojournalist Aspen Hester spoke with a former president of Kentucky State University about the local impacts.
The Trump administration has frozen federal funding that stunts a program at Kentucky State University, an HBCU.
This program is a direct program that provides direct support for students.
The USDA's 1890 National Scholars Program covers full tuition, room, and board for students pursuing degrees in agriculture, food, natural resource sciences, and other related fields. Kentucky State University is the only university in Kentucky that participates in the program. Raymond Burst serves as president of Louisville's NAACP chapter. He also served as president of the HBCU.
They're going to have to figure out what they're going to do and hopefully sort of soften the impact on students. But if you don't have the resources, some of those students who are very deserving individuals may be going home.
The scholarship program has been around for 30 years.
When I was at Kentucky State, in terms of students that were in the program, probably almost half of the students were in fact non-black students. I guess for the folks who put the freeze in place, they're probably thinking that they're in fact impacting African-American students, or this is a program that's restricted to African-American students.
Kentucky State University responded with no comment to our request on how the institution plans to move forward with these students. The law creating HBCUs, called the Second Moral Act of 1890, requires federal funding for teaching, research, and extension programs to continue their mission of providing opportunities in agriculture and mechanical arts.
Because not only is what Donald Trump doing unconstitutional, but the funding that he is taking away and freezing, the agencies he's getting rid of, they really have a massive impact on people in Kentucky.
Louisville Congressman Morgan McGarvey sees firsthand the impacts on his home.
They are cutting funding to education. They're cutting funding to workforce development. When what we know is we need to have an educated workforce to continue to keep America on top.
It's a program that supports students, and given the competitiveness in the world, we should be all supporting anything we can do to help our students to succeed and be successful.
Education for a vital portion of Kentucky's economy and food source. In Louisville, Clarice Shaley, WHAS 11 Night Team, on your side.
Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear is sounding the alarm about potential cuts proposed to Medicaid by House Republicans. Right now, House Republicans are crafting a budget package that includes President Donald Trump's top agenda items. That includes boosting border security and extending his tax cuts. To pay for it, the GOP is looking at making deep cuts, and a large chunk is expected to come from Medicaid. Governor Beshear took to social media today saying that these cuts will hurt the most rural parts of the state.
Medicaid is the driving force behind rural health care. Without it, we'll see hospital closures. We'll see losses of jobs for nurses, doctors, and everybody else who works in those facilities. But the worst thing is we'll see our families having to drive 2 hours sometimes just to get a regular appointment to keep them healthy.
The committee that oversees the health programs is tasked with cutting $800 billion, again, which most of is coming to be expected from Medicaid. However, this goes against rhetoric from President Donald Trump, who has insisted he will not touch Medicaid. Despite this, President Trump has already endorsed the House Republican plan. Meanwhile, in the Senate, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul is blasting Democratic efforts to rein in Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency. Democrats used an overnight session on the Senate budget bill to propose amendments, which included barring tax breaks for billionaires, reversing DOGE firings of public workers and program cuts, preserve Medicaid, and help Ukraine. Senator Paul blasted the moves on the Senate floor and called the efforts attempts to prevent DOGE from doing work to cut waste.
This is an amendment that says it's okay to spend $2 million in Guatemala on sex change surgery. This is an amendment that says it's okay to look the other way. Transgender comic books in Peru are great. This is an amendment that says it's okay to do trans operas in Colombia. This is an amendment that attacks people who are looking to save our money and spend it on legitimate diplomacy, not crazy, loony, left-wing ideas.
None of the amendments proposed by Democrats were approved. Paul did, however, side with Democrats who voted against the Senate budget bill. The Kentucky senator argued the bill promoted more spending instead of cutting it. On Monday, Ukraine marks the third anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Kyiv is under attack, with Russia launching a record number of drones against Ukraine, and now President Zelensky says he's willing to give up his presidency for peace or NATO membership. Here's ABC's Allison Cossack with the details.
The capital city of Kyiv once again under attack, Russia launching its biggest ever drone strike on Ukraine. For 3 years, the people of Ukraine have endured assaults like this nearly every day. And now, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is facing political attacks as well. President Trump falsely calling him a dictator for not holding elections. Zelensky pushing back on those claims, saying, quote, "How can we call an election in which half of the population of the country won't be able to vote in?" But now Zelensky saying he is willing to give up the presidency if it means peace in Ukraine. Also offering to stand down if it meant membership in NATO, saying, "I'll do it immediately without a long conversation about it." U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth defending President Trump's approach on Fox News.
Vladimir Putin can attempt to take all the victory laps he wants. The reality is the president is focused on one thing and one thing only, and that's stopping the killing and the destruction across Ukraine and ensuring an enduring peace.
But Democratic Senator Jack Reed has condemned what he calls President Trump's alignment with Russia.
This is just someone who admires Putin, does not believe in the struggle of the Ukrainians, and is committed to cozying up to an autocrat.
The White House is also pressing Zelensky to accept a deal that would require Ukraine to give back hundreds of billions of dollars to the U.S. for the military aid sent to Ukraine. Zelensky insisting the money was a grant and not a loan, but says he's ready to work with America on joint investments. French President Macron and British Prime Minister Starmer will meet with President Trump in Washington this week as they seek to persuade the president not to abandon Ukraine in pursuit of a peace deal. Allison Cossack, ABC News, New York.
Some traditional public school districts would be required to share referendum tax dollars with charter schools under a new bill in Indiana. These are dollars collected from local taxes imposed by the school district. The bill's sponsor says that charter schools are public school, but they don't give the same level of funding. She says these schools deserve the benefits from local property taxes. However, those against the money going to charter schools argue the bill creates a scenario where two different school types must compete for the money.
What is enough? Do we stop when we run out of money, or do we keep taking away from those traditional public schools that need those resources, that need to recruit some of the best students, that still educate over 90% of our kids in this state?
Despite charters being public schools like their traditional counterparts and having extensive oversight and transparency, charters do not receive the same funding. This legislation is to address that disparity.
A mix of Republicans and Democrats voted against the bill, but it did ultimately pass by 3 votes. It now advances to the House. Community members continue to share concerns about violence they believe is brought on by the nightlife in the Highlands neighborhood. Metro Councilperson Ben Reno Weber addressed these concerns during a community meeting today, highlighting the improvement the area has seen. Community members expressed their pleasure with Metro ABC cracking down on bars and revoking some liquor licenses for denying renewal requests. Ben Reno Weber highlighted the improvements seen in the area.
The mayor was recently talking about how violence is down by 40% in our city. It's down by even more in what is the second safest police district in the entire city. So we're really glad about that.
One of those bars that had their liquor license denied is Baxter's 942. Metro ABC pointed to 4 violent incidents outside and nearby the bar. The owners are now suing in hopes to restore the license.
We don't feel legally, morally, factually responsible, and I use this argument in court, maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't. I said, Judge, let's say I have a neighbor 3 doors down that's flying a gay flag, which may cause some people to protest, and 3 doors out on this side I've got a Confederate rebel flag, which may cause some protest. So these people get in an argument and fist fight and or shoot each other. Am I responsible for that? No.
They have presented their case in court and are waiting a ruling from the judge. The case is up to Kentucky's Alcoholic Beverage Control Board. Louisville Water Company is working to make repairs after a water main break in South Louisville today. You can see the impact of the break right here. Several cars submerged in water caused by the break on 3rd and West Kenton Streets. According to the water company, the 16-inch water main break broke around 8:30 this morning. They do not know what caused it yet. The company said 11 customers would be without water service as it works to make repairs, and that includes homes and businesses. Louisville Water Company said their goal is to have water service restored by midnight. As of this newscast, we have not heard of it being restored, and crews will be out throughout the evening. They will be back in the morning in the area tomorrow to finish and repair the roadway.